What makes Juiceboxforyou work? Being someone that watches an unholy amount of YouTube, I often try and figure out what specific aspects of a channel form its identity and the characteristics that make it stand above the rest. Usually these come to the forefront pretty quickly, whether it's the overarching quality, editing style, or a mix of multiple elements. But somehow, despite watching every video at least twice over, I could never really pinpoint what made this channel be the obvious candidate for my favorite of all time. But today, we will try. Juicebox's origins don't begin with the YouTube channel. It started in 2010 as a blog to document the small but dedicated car scene that Ireland has to offer. Despite the relatively small population size, a decent chunk find interest in cars, which may come as a little bit of a surprise if you don't take into account that a literal race car might drive through your neighborhood at some point. Like somebody lives there. I feel like it'd be kind of easy to get into cars if a war machine of a Mark II Escort were to rip past your house on a Sunday afternoon. This obviously has a trickle-down effect to the greater population. Combined with the relatively low cost and ease of importing a car into Ireland, led to some pretty incredible builds in the later 2000s to earlier 2010s. And the creator of Juicebox, Neil, was there to capture it. The blog would soon move over to YouTube, making short edits of the car features found on the site. Both the site and videos would continue on until eventually, in 2013, Neil would move to Canada. The site would continue on much the same, now carried by his friends during his absence. To skip forward a little bit in time, we have the first time that I, as well as many others, ever saw a Juicebox video. September 4th, 2017, with the release of the first 8.6 vlog. For me, it was an instant hit. As much as I would like to say it was some other attribute, I probably instantly gravitated towards the channel as it was about my favorite car, and 8.6 content is rather scant, to say the least. From even the first video, although by no means was it professional, it was quite well shot and edited, being that Neil had previously made pretty high quality videos. It doesn't seem like much of a stretch that a lot of that talent and experience would carry over. As I worked through the back catalog, it all started to click as to what makes Juiceboxforyou work so well. The vlogs are interesting, to say the least, as I wouldn't exactly define them a lot of the times as car videos. More of a supercut of general shed antics with a splash of cars laced in between. They are essentially just a glimpse into what a weekend in the shed would look like, which is a lot of times usually just skimmed over by other car channels, despite it being a lot more accurate to what most would experience. It's pretty much impossible to work on anything with your friends without it being a little bit of a gong show.
This is Josh.
We're going UK spec with the car.
We're going UK spec with the breeder now. The breeder doesn't come up to the front.
Doesn't breathe properly
on the UK spec, so.
But watching these videos back made me realize something. The connection between these and skateboarding videos. Maybe a bit of a stretch, but hear me out. Though I'm far from knowledgeable about them, I'm kind of a fan of these lower budget skate videos. Ignoring the obvious visual and subject matter differences, at their core, they're typically just a bunch of friends fucking around and goofing off, intermixed with actual skateboarding. I think a lot of that same energy found itself in the Juicebox videos. Prior to making car content, Neil actually used to make skate videos, and I could see how a lot of those same habits and influences could materialize despite the change in format and subject. I think the same sort of thought process can be applied to the features. Despite many other channels creating a very similarly formatted video, where a host goes over another person's build and they explain them alongside some B-roll. But it has its own distinct flair to it, feeling almost like a long-form adaptation of the written site features, with just a blend of him and the owner having a chat and hanging out. There's no single key feature that I think makes these style of car videos so enjoyable to me. but more of a blend of the different inspirations with the unique insight into the often overlooked car culture that Ireland has to offer. In April of 2021, the channel would release the first episode of the Japan in a Van series to YouTube, documenting Neil and his two friends' trip across Japan with no real objective, somehow managing to do basically every single bucket list activity in a mere 2.5 weeks. But how? What set him up to be in these holy grail positions and situations comes down to simply passion. It seems that people around him want to show the three of them a look inside their lives because they can sense how happy it genuinely makes them. In the modern car landscape, it's pretty hard to find someone who simply cares as much as this guy. From the week-to-week vlogs of just fucking around in the shed to the half-hour-long specials, what really sets the Juicebox channel apart is that him and his friends truly love it, with you watching from the sidelines. And that passion is felt by the viewer. In April of 2021, I was in the midst of my 4th lockdown of that year. The days seemingly faded from one to the next, and I was left with almost nothing to do. On every Monday, I would make myself a cup of tea, lay in bed, and watch the next installment of the Japan in a Van series that I had saved all day up until that point. And it was a small break from the monotony that lockdown had brought on. It dawned on me when making this video that, although neat, the smaller aspects of the channel are almost insignificant. His dedication to creating and the interesting people that he surrounds himself with are truly what make the difference. I'm not entirely sure whether this was just a grandiose dick riding session or whether this is how others actually feel about what is essentially a small piece of the grand YouTube puzzle. But I feel this channel has never really gotten the credit it deserves. I've basically watched every single car channel. After literal tens of thousands of hours, this one came out on top. I don't know what Juicebox will have in store for us in the future, but what I do know is that as long as it's still around, you can find me tuning in every Monday. Thanks for watching.
Yo, the jam was fly. Oh my, now it's over. My batch of pals consultage must